6 months had passed since the Vorthak conquered New Sol. General Mordex stood in his command center on the captured human colony, but he was not happy. Something was wrong, and he couldn't figure out what. The conquest had been easy, just like always. After New Sol fell, the other human colonies had fallen too, one by one. New Busan lasted 3 days. New Incheon fell in 2. New Daegu put up a good fight for a week before surrendering. All 7 human colonies were now under Vorthak control, but the humans were acting strange. "General, we have another report from the prison camps," said Captain Veltar, one of his officers. The captain had blue skin and 4 arms, like most of his species. They had joined the Vorthak Empire 50 years ago after their own quick defeat. "What now?" Mordex asked. "The humans are still trying to talk to our guards. They ask questions about everything. How our weapons work, what our armor is made of, where we come from. The guards think they're just curious, but you think it's something else?" Mordex finished. "Yes, General. No other species has ever cared so much about learning about us after we defeated them." Mordex walked to the window and looked out at New Sol. The human colony looked normal. Now, Vorthak flags flew from the buildings. Vorthak soldiers walked the streets. Human civilians went about their daily work under guard. Everything looked like a successful conquest. But something felt wrong. In another part of the colony, Tae-young Choi was doing exactly what Captain Veltar suspected, but he was being much more careful about it. Tae-young had been a computer expert before the invasion. Now he was officially just another human prisoner working in the colony's power plant, but secretly, he was part of a resistance network that the Vorthak didn't know existed. The humans had built this network carefully. They didn't try to fight the Vorthak soldiers or damage their equipment. Instead, they watched and learned. Every day, they gathered more information about their conquerors. "The guard rotation changes every 8 hours. Tae-young whispered to Ji-woo-han as they worked together replacing power cables. Ji-woo had been a communications expert before the war. Now she helped coordinate the secret information network. "Good," Ji-woo whispered back. "I figured out something interesting about their communication system yesterday. They use quantum encryption, but it has a weakness. The signals bounce off their ship hulls in a specific pattern. If we map enough patterns, we might be able to read their messages." "Are you sure that's safe?" Tae-young asked. "Nothing we're doing is safe," Ji-woo said, "but Earth needs to know everything we can learn." What the Vorthak didn't understand was that humans had a different way of thinking about defeat. Most species, when they lost a war, focused on surviving under their new rulers. Humans focused on understanding their new rulers so completely that defeat would never happen again. Every human colony had set up the same kind of secret network. They all sent information back to Earth using quantum communication systems the Vorthak couldn't detect. The information included everything they could learn about Vorthak technology, biology, tactics, and culture. On New Sol, Dae-ho Kim sat in his prison cell and smiled as he listened to a conversation between 2 Vorthak guards. They thought, he couldn't understand their language, but humans were very good at learning languages quickly. Over 6 months, many of the human prisoners had learned to understand Vorthak speech. The guards were complaining about the food supplies. Apparently, Vorthak soldiers needed a specific mineral in their diet, and they were running low on it. Without this mineral, they got sick and weak. This was exactly the kind of information Earth needed to know. That night, Dae-ho carefully passed the information to another prisoner, who passed it to another, and so on. By morning, the information about Vorthak nutritional needs was on its way to Earth. Meanwhile, Admiral Kexmore of the Vorthak fleet was having his own concerns. He had been put in charge of the human colonies after the conquest, and nothing was going the way it usually did. "The humans are too cooperative," he told General Mordex during their weekly meeting. "When we conquered the Zelani, they tried to rebel for years. When we conquered the Morvac, they spent decades plotting against us. But these humans just seem to accept their situation." "Isn't that good?" Mordex asked. "Maybe. Or maybe they're planning something we can't see." Admiral Kexmore was more right than he knew. The humans were planning something, but it wasn't a rebellion. It was something much more dangerous to the Vorthak Empire. On Earth, in a secret military facility, Commander Hyun Sunam looked at the latest reports from the occupied colonies. The information was incredible. In just 6 months, the humans had learned more about the Vorthak than the Empire's enemies had learned in centuries of warfare. They use plasma-based energy weapons that need specific cooling systems, Dr. Young-hee. Kang read from her notes. She was Earth's top expert on alien biology and had been studying all the information coming from the colonies. Their armor is strong against energy attacks but weaker against kinetic weapons. Their ships have powerful shields, but the shield generators have to be recharged every 72 hours. What about their biology? Commander Nam asked. Very interesting, Dr. Kang said. They need a mineral called vorthium to stay healthy. Without it, their immune systems fail within weeks. They also can't see certain colors that humans can see, which might be useful for camouflage. And their tactics? Predictable, said Captain Bo-Ra Shin, Earth's special operations expert. They've been winning wars the same way for so long that they don't know how to adapt. They always use overwhelming force and expect enemies to surrender quickly. They don't know what to do with enemies who keep fighting and learning. Commander Nam nodded. The plan was working perfectly. While the Vorthak thought they had won a great victory by conquering 7 small human colonies, they had actually walked into a trap. They had shown Earth everything about how they fought, how their technology worked, and how they could be beaten. How much longer do we need? Commander Nam asked. The scientists say another 6 months to finish developing countermeasures, Dr. Kang said. Maybe less if we keep getting this quality of information. Then we wait, Commander Nam said. And we let the Vorthak think they've won. Back on New Sol, General Mordex was getting more suspicious every day. He had started watching the human prisoners more carefully, and he was seeing things that worried him. The humans moved differently than other conquered species. They didn't walk with their heads down like defeated people. They looked around too much, paying attention to things that shouldn't matter to prisoners. They asked too many questions and remembered too many answers. I want to question the human leaders again, he told Captain Veltar. Which ones, General? Start with Kim Dae-ho. He was their administrator. He might know what they're really doing. When they brought Dae-ho to the interrogation room, General Mordex stared at him for a long time before speaking. The human looked back calmly, showing no fear. Your people are planning something, Mordex said finally. We're planning to survive, Dae-ho replied. Same as any conquered people. No, other conquered peoples try to forget about their old lives and accept their new situation. Your people seem to be studying us. Dae-ho shrugged. Humans are curious. We like to learn things. What are you learning? Everything, Dae-ho said, and he smiled. That smile made General Mordex very uncomfortable. It wasn't the smile of a defeated man. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. You think you're going to be rescued? Mordex said. You think Earth will send ships to save you? Maybe, Dae-ho said. Or maybe we don't need to be rescued. Maybe you're the ones who need to worry. What do you mean? You've been studying us for 6 months, Dae-ho said, learning about human colonies, human technology, human tactics. But we've been studying you too, and humans are very good students. General Mordex felt a chill run down his spine. For the first time in his long military career, he wondered if maybe the Vorthak had made a mistake. The celebrations on the Vorthak homeworld lasted for 3 days. Empress Vexithera sat on her crystal throne, watching the victory parades through her palace windows. Her generals had brought her news of another successful conquest. 7 human colonies had been added to the empire. The humans had been defeated quickly and completely. Another easy victory, she said to High Counselor Zefta Khan, her chief advisor. These humans were even weaker than we expected. Yes, Empress, Zefta Khan agreed. General Mordex reports that the colonies fell within weeks. The humans had primitive weapons and no real military experience. But even as they celebrated, something strange was happening in space near the Sol system. Vorthak long-range sensors were picking up massive energy readings from the direction of Earth. The readings were so large that they didn't make sense. Could our sensors be broken? Asked Technical Officer Bexdan, staring at his instruments aboard the monitoring station. Run a full diagnostic, his supervisor ordered. These readings show more energy than our entire home fleet produces. The diagnostic came back clean. The sensors were working perfectly. The energy signatures were real. On Earth, Commander Hyun-Soo Nam stood in the main control room of Earth Defense Command. Around him, hundreds of technicians worked at computer stations. The room was filled with the quiet hum of advanced machinery and the soft beeping of communication systems. All colonial intelligence has been processed, Dr. Young-hee Kang reported. We now have complete technical specifications for Vorthak weapons, shields, armor, and ship designs. And, Commander Nam asked, their technology is impressive but predictable. They've been using the same basic designs for thousands of years. They make improvements, but they don't innovate. We can counter everything they have. Commander Nam nodded. This was what Earth had been waiting for. For over a year, they had let the Vorthak think they had won an easy victory. In reality, the conquered human colonies had been gathering intelligence on Earth's behalf. Now it was time to act. Send a message to the diplomatic corps, he ordered. Tell them it's time for first contact. Captain Bora Shin prepared her ship, the Aegis, for its mission. The Aegis looked like a simple diplomatic vessel from the outside, but it was packed with Earth's most advanced technology. Its mission was not to fight, but to send a message. Are you sure about this plan? Asked her second-in-command, Lieutenant Hak-Jin Park. Just one ship against their entire empire? We're not going to fight them, Bora said. We're going to talk to them. But first, we're going to show them something that will get their attention. Play. Aegis launched from Earth and immediately activated its quantum drive. In seconds, it traveled the distance that would take a Vorthak ship weeks to cross. The technology was beyond anything the Vorthak had ever seen. When the Aegis arrived at the Vorthak capital system, it didn't try to hide. Instead, it broadcast a simple message on all frequencies. This is Captain Bora Shin of the human vessel Aegis. We request an audience with the Vorthak leadership. On the Vorthak homeworld, alarms started ringing immediately. How did they get here so fast? Empress Vexthera demanded. Her throne room was filled with panicking officials and confused military officers. Unknown, Empress, Admiral Kexmore replied. Our sensors tracked no ship movement from the Sol system, but the human vessel is definitely here. How is that possible? We don't know. General Mordex, who had been called back from the human colonies for this emergency, studied the sensor readings. This makes no sense. According to our intelligence, humans don't have faster-than-light travel technology. Apparently, our intelligence was wrong, High Counselor Zefta Khan said quietly. The human ship was small compared to Vorthak warships, but something about it made everyone nervous. It sat in space near the Vorthak homeworld, completely calm, as if it had every right to be there. Should we destroy it? Admiral Kexmore asked. One ship? Empress Vexthera said. Yes, destroy it. Show these humans what happens when they come uninvited to our home. The Vorthak home defense fleet moved to attack. 50 massive warships surrounded the tiny human vessel, their weapons powered up, ready to turn the Aegis into space dust. But when they fired, something impossible happened. The weapons passed right through the human ship without causing any damage. What just happened? Admiral Kexmore shouted. The human ship appears to be not entirely there. Technical Officer Bexdan reported, his voice shaking. What do you mean, not entirely there? It's a projection, sir, a hologram. The real ship isn't here. Everyone in the Vorthak command center fell silent. If the humans could project perfect holograms across interstellar space, what else could they do? Captain Bora Shin, sitting safely in her real ship several star systems away, smiled as she watched the Vorthak weapons pass harmlessly through her holographic projection. I think we have their attention now, she said to Lieutenant Park. Thew, hologram of Captain Bora, began speaking to the Vorthak fleet. That was just a demonstration. We could have sent a real ship, but we wanted to show you something first. If we can project a perfect hologram to your capital from light years away, in real time, what do you think we can do with our actual military? Empress Vexithera stared at the image of the human captain on her main screen. The woman looked calm and confident, not at all like someone whose species had just been conquered. What do you want? The Empress asked. We want you to return our people, Bora said. All of them. We want you to leave our colonies, and we want you to understand something very important. Which is, you didn't conquer humanity. You conquered our science teams. The silence that followed this statement was deafening. General Mordex felt his blood turn cold. Science teams. That explained everything. Why the humans had fought so strangely. Why they had seemed more interested in studying Vorthak weapons than in winning battles. Why they had asked so many questions during their imprisonment. The people you defeated on our colonies weren't soldiers, Bora continued. They were researchers, engineers, and observers. Their job was to learn everything about you, and they did their job very well. Impossible, Admiral Kexmore said. We studied your colonies before we attacked. We saw your defenses, your weapons, your military capabilities. You saw what we wanted you to see, Bora replied. You saw the minimum force needed to make you think you were fighting our real military. But our actual military has been here on Earth the whole time, studying everything our people learned about you. Empress Vexithara began to understand the full scope of what had happened. You used your own people as bait. They volunteered, Bora said. Every single person on those colonies knew what their real mission was. They knew they might be captured or killed, but they also knew their sacrifice would give Earth the information we needed to defend ourselves. And now? Now we know everything about you. How your weapons work, how your ships are built, how your military thinks, how your biology functions. We know your strengths and your weaknesses. We know how to counter every weapon you have and how to exploit every flaw in your defenses. The Vorthak leaders looked at each other with growing fear. In all their centuries of conquest, they had never encountered anything like this. Species usually tried to hide their weaknesses, not deliberately expose them in order to learn about their enemies. What are your terms? Empress Vexithara asked finally. 72 hours, Bora said. Return all human prisoners. Withdraw from all human colonies. And never attack human territory again. And if we refuse, then you'll discover what happens when humans stop studying and start fighting. The hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving the Vorthak leadership alone with a terrible choice. They could return the human prisoners and admit defeat, or they could face an enemy that knew everything about them, while they knew almost nothing about their true capabilities. Gather the full Imperial fleet, Empress Vexithara ordered. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. If these humans want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. But even as she gave the order, she couldn't shake the feeling that the humans were counting on exactly this response. Daeho Kim looked up at the dark sky above New Seoul Colony. The stars looked the same as they always did, but he knew something was coming. His hands shook a little as he held the communication device. The message from Earth had been clear. Big trouble was heading their way. Sir, the sensors are picking up something. Sunmi Park called out from her workstation. She was the best engineer they had on the colony. Her fingers moved fast across the control panel. It's big. Really big. Daeho walked over to look at her screen. What he saw made his stomach feel cold. 500 dots were moving toward their small colony world. Each dot was a warship. Each warship was bigger than anything humans had ever built. How long do we have? He asked. Maybe 6 hours, Sunmi said. Her voice was quiet. Maybe less. Woojin Lee came running into the control room. He was breathing hard. Woojin used to be a soldier back on Earth before he came to help protect the colony. I got all the defense systems ready, he said. But Daeho, we both know it won't be enough. Daeho nodded. Everyone in the room knew the truth. New Seoul was just a small farming colony. They had maybe 10,000 people. They had some basic weapons and shields, but nothing that could fight a real army. The aliens coming toward them ruled most of the galaxy. They had been winning wars for thousands of years. The Vorthak Empire was the strongest force anyone had. ever seen. They controlled 40,000 worlds. Their ships could destroy planets. Their armies had never lost a war. And now they were coming for the humans. Why us? Asked Sunmi. We never did anything to them. We just wanted to grow food and live in peace. Because we're here, said Wu Jin. That's enough for them. They don't like it when anyone lives in space without asking them first. Daeho had read all the reports about the Vorthak. They were tall, with gray skin and sharp teeth. They wore black armor and carried weapons that could cut through steel. When they found a new species, they gave them two choices: join the Empire or die. Most species chose to join, but humans were different. When the first Vorthak ships had visited Earth, the humans had said no. They didn't want to be ruled by aliens. They wanted to stay free. The Vorthak had been surprised. Most species were scared of them. Humans seemed more angry than scared. Sir, they're sending us a message, Sunmi said. Put it on the big screen, Daeho told her. The screen showed a Vorthak general. He was huge, with scars on his face and cold yellow eyes. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough. I am General Mordex of the Vorthak Empire. You humans have refused to join us. This was a mistake. We are here to fix your mistake. Surrender now and some of you will live. Fight us and all of you will die. You have 1 hour to decide. The screen went black. Nobody spoke for a long time. Finally, Wu Jin laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. 1 hour, that's nice of them. What are you going to tell him? Sunmi asked Daeho. Daeho thought about his wife back on Earth. He thought about his children who would grow up in a galaxy ruled by the Vorthak if the humans lost this war. He thought about all the people on New Sol who trusted him to keep them safe. I'm going to tell him no, Daeho said. Sir, they'll kill us all, Sunmi said. Maybe, Daeho said, but we're not the only human colony out here. There are 6 others. If we surrender without a fight, what message does that send? Maybe if we fight, we can learn something useful. Maybe we can find out how their weapons work, or how their ships are built. Wu Jin smiled for real this time. You want to fight so we can spy on them? Something like that, Daeho said. Sunmi, are all our sensors working? Yes, sir. Everything we see and hear will be recorded and sent back to Earth. Good. Wu Jin, get everyone ready. We're going to give these aliens a fight they won't forget. 1 hour later, General Mordex called again. What is your answer, humans? Our answer is no, Daeho said. New Sol will never surrender. The general's yellow eyes got brighter. Then you will die. All of you. Maybe, Daeho said. But you'll remember us. The attack began 10 minutes later. The Vorthak ships came down through the atmosphere like falling stars. Their weapons shot beams of red energy that could melt rock. Their shields made them shine like they were made of light. But the humans were ready. Wu Jin had set up guns all around the colony. Not energy weapons like the Vorthak used, but old-style guns that shot pieces of metal really fast. The colonists had also built traps and hidden bombs. The Vorthak had expected the humans to have the same kind of weapons they did. Energy shields that could stop energy weapons. But human guns shot solid metal, and the Vorthak shields weren't designed to stop that. The first wave of Vorthak soldiers landed near the colony's main buildings. They wore their black armor and carried their energy weapons. They moved like they had done this 1,000 times before. Which they had. But when they got close to the buildings, Wu Jin's traps went off. Explosions came from underground. Sharp pieces of metal flew everywhere. Some of the Vorthak soldiers fell down and didn't get up. The other soldiers looked confused. Their armor could stop energy weapons, but it had trouble with flying pieces of metal moving really fast. This is working better than I thought it would, Wu Jin said into his communication device. Don't get too excited, Daeho said back. This is just the first wave. They have 500 ships up there. He was right. The Vorthak quickly figured out what was happening. They changed their attack plan. Instead of sending soldiers on foot, they started shooting their energy weapons from their ships in space. The beams came down like rain, hitting everything. Sunmi watched her instruments as the colony's defenses got destroyed one by one. But she also watched something else. Every time a Vorthak weapon fired, her sensors recorded it. Every time their shields got hit, she measured them. Every time their ships moved, she tracked them. "I'm getting lots of good information," she told Deho. "Their weapons work on a specific frequency. Their shields have weak spots. Their ships move in patterns." "Keep recording," Deho said. "Even if we lose, this information might help other human colonies." The battle went on for 6 hours. The humans fought as hard as they could, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. One by one, their defenses fell. One by one, their weapons stopped working. Finally, Vorthak soldiers surrounded the main control building where Deho, Sunmi, and Wu Jin had made their last stand. General Mordex walked into the room. Up close, he was even scarier than he had looked on the screen. He was almost 8 feet tall and his armor was covered in burn marks from the fighting. "You fought better than most species," he said to Deho. "But not well enough. Your people are now property of the Vorthak Empire." Deho looked at Sunmi. She nodded slightly. All the information they had gathered was already being sent to Earth through quantum channels the Vorthak couldn't detect. "You won this battle," Deho told the general. "But you might not like what comes next." General Mordex laughed. "What could possibly come next? We have destroyed your defenses and captured your colony. The other human worlds will fall just as easily." Deho smiled, even though he was now a prisoner. "You'll see." What the general didn't know was that New Sol had never been meant to win. It had been meant to learn, and it had learned a lot. The largest military force in galactic history was moving toward Earth. 50,000 Vorthak warships, along with ships from dozens of allied species, formed a fleet so massive it created its own gravitational effects. Empress Vexathara had called upon every world in her empire to contribute to this final battle against humanity. "This will end the human problem forever," she declared from her flagship, the massive dreadnought Eternal Dominion. The ship was 10 miles long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. Admiral Kexmore stood beside her, watching the fleet reports come in. "The humans have had 72 hours to surrender," he said. "They have remained silent." Then, "They have chosen death," the Empress replied. But even as the great fleet approached the Sol system, some of the Vorthak commanders were feeling uneasy. General Mordex, now serving as the fleet's chief tactical officer, studied the intelligence, reports from their advanced scouts. "Something's wrong," he told Admiral Kexmore privately. "The Sol system looks almost undefended." "What do you mean?" "Our scouts report seeing maybe 300 human ships in the entire system. Earth itself has minimal orbital defenses. For a species that can project holograms across interstellar space, they seem remarkably unprepared for our attack." Admiral Kexmore frowned. After the hologram incident, he had learned to be suspicious of anything involving humans. "Maybe it's another trick. Maybe. Or maybe they really don't have a strong military. Maybe the hologram technology was their only advanced weapon, but neither of them could shake the feeling that they were missing something important." On Earth, General Minho Yoon stood in the main command center, watching the approaching Vorthak fleet on the tactical display. Around him, hundreds of Earth's best military minds worked calmly at their stations. There was no panic, no desperate preparations. Everyone seemed relaxed. 50,000 ships, commented Specialist Yoon Ji-song, reading the sensor reports. "That's more than we expected." "Is it a problem?" General Yoon asked. "No, sir. Actually, it makes things easier. The bigger the target, the easier it is to hit." Ambassador Heejin Lim entered the command center. She had been Earth's chief diplomat for first contact situations, but her real background was in alien psychology. She had spent months studying the behavioral data gathered from the human colonies. "The Vorthak are reacting exactly as predicted," she reported. "Overwhelming force, direct assault, no subtlety. They're doing exactly what they've done for thousands of years." "And they have no idea what they're walking into," General Yoon said. Theory. Truth was that Earth had been preparing for this moment for over a year. While the Vorthak thought they were studying captured human colonies, Earth had been studying them. Every piece of information gathered by the colonists, had been used to develop countermeasures for Vorthak technology. Dr. Dong-hyun Oh, head of Earth's Xenotechnology Research Division, had spent months reverse engineering Vorthak weapons and defenses. His team had found weaknesses in every system the aliens used. Their energy weapons operate on predictable frequencies, he had reported to General Yoon weeks earlier. We can generate interference patterns that will disrupt their power systems. Their shields are strong but inflexible. They can't adapt to new types of attacks. Their ship computers use quantum processors that become unstable when exposed to certain electromagnetic pulses. All of this information had been used to prepare Earth's real defenses. But those defenses were hidden, waiting for the right moment. The Vorthak fleet entered the outer edge of the Sol system. They spread out in their traditional attack formation. Empress Vexithara watched from her flagship as her scouts reported on the human defenses. Confirmed, Empress. Approximately 300 human vessels in orbit around Earth. No sign of major defensive installations. No hidden fleets detected. It's too easy, General Mordex muttered. Perhaps the humans are simply not as advanced as we feared, suggested High Counselor Zeftakin. The hologram may have been their only sophisticated technology. But Admiral Kexmore was studying his tactical displays with growing concern. The human ships aren't moving to intercept us. They're not even powering up their weapons. What are they waiting for? On Earth, General Yoon was asking himself the same question, but from a different perspective. Are we ready? He asked his staff. All systems are online, Specialist Song replied. We have complete targeting solutions for every enemy ship. Countermeasures are prepared and standing by. Then let's show the Vorthak what they really came here to fight. General Yoon activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice reached every Vorthak ship in the system. Attention Vorthak fleet. This is General Minho Yoon of Earth Defense Command. You have entered human space with hostile intent. You have ignored our diplomatic communications. You have refused to return our people. We gave you a chance for peace. You chose war instead. Empress Vexithara laughed when she heard the message. One human general threatening 50,000 ships. These creatures are insane. You have been studying our colonies for months, General Yoon continued. You think you understand human technology and human capabilities. You are wrong. What you fought on our colonies was not our military. What you captured was not our army. What you studied was not our true strength. Enough of this, the Empress said. All ships begin the attack. Destroy every human vessel and prepare for planetary bombardment. The Vorthak fleet opened fire. 50,000 ships unleashed their weapons at once. The energy beams were so bright they lit up the entire solar system. It was the most devastating attack in galactic history. But something was wrong. The beams seemed to be losing power as they traveled toward the human ships. By the time they reached their targets, they had weakened to barely half strength. And even then, the human shields held easily. What's happening to our weapons? Admiral Kexmore demanded. Unknown interference, sir. Something is disrupting our energy output. On Earth, Dr. O smiled as he watched his interference generators work perfectly. Phase 1 complete, he reported to General Yoon. Their weapons are operating at 50% efficiency. Begin Phase 2, General Yoon ordered. Suddenly, warning alarms started sounding throughout the Vorthak fleet. Ships began reporting. System failures, weapons went offline. Shields flickered and died. Engine power dropped to emergency levels. We're losing power across the entire fleet. Technical Officer Beckstan shouted from his station on the Empress's flagship. All systems are failing simultaneously. How is this possible? Empress Vexithara screamed. General Mordex stared at his tactical display in horror as he watched ship after ship go dark. They're using our own technology against us, he realized. Somehow they know exactly how our systems work. They're attacking every weak point at once. He was right. Earth's scientists had spent months studying every piece of Vorthak technology. They knew every weakness, every flaw, every point of failure. Now they were exploiting all of them at the same time. Empress, Admiral Kexmore said quietly, we need to retreat. Retreat? From 300 human ships? Those aren't the only human ships, General Mordex said, pointing at his sensors. Look at the energy readings coming from the inner system. For the first time since arriving at Earth, the Vorthak leaders looked beyond the small human fleet to the planet itself. What they saw made their blood freeze. Earth wasn't defended by 300 ships. Earth was surrounded by millions of energy signatures. The entire planet was covered with defensive installations, weapon platforms, and shield generators. The space around Earth contained more military hardware than the Vorthak had seen in their entire history. "That's impossible," whispered High Counselor Zeftikon. "No single planet could support that much military equipment." But it wasn't just Earth. As their sensors cleared, the Vorthak began detecting massive installations throughout the Sol system. Mars was covered with weapons. The asteroid belt had been turned into a fortress. Jupiter's moons bristled with defensive systems. They turned their entire solar system into a weapon, General Mordek said in amazement. General Yoon's voice came over the communication system again. "Now you see our real military, Vorthak. What you fought on our colonies was not even 1% of our true strength. We are not a species of farmers and scientists. We are a species that has spent centuries perfecting the art of war." The human fleet that the Vorthak had dismissed as too small suddenly didn't look small anymore. As the aliens watched in horror, hundreds more ships began appearing throughout the system. They had been hidden, cloaked, or simply missed by Vorthak sensors that had been designed to detect Vorthak technology, not human innovations. "You wanted to see what happens when humans stop studying and start fighting," General Yoon continued. "This is your answer." The mighty Vorthak fleet hung dead in space around Earth. 50,000 warships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries were now floating helplessly, their weapons offline, their shields down, their engines silent. Inside each ship, emergency. Lights flickered in the darkness as life support systems struggled to keep working. Empress Vexithera sat in her command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed her fleet's complete defeat. Not a single human ship had been destroyed. Not one human weapon had even fired yet. The humans had defeated the largest military force in galactic history without shooting back. "How?" she whispered. Fleet Admiral Su Bin Jiang materialized as a hologram in the center of the Vorthak flagship's bridge. She was a tall woman with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen many battles. Around her, Vorthak officers reached for weapons that no longer worked. "Your Majesty," Admiral Jiang said with a slight bow, "I am Fleet Admiral Su Bin Jiang, commander of Earth's military forces. I believe we need to talk." "What have you done to our ships?" Empress Vexthara demanded. "Nothing permanent," Admiral Jiang replied. "We've simply turned off your weapons, shields, and engines using the weaknesses we discovered in your technology. Your crews are safe, your ships are undamaged, and your life support systems are functioning normally." "This is impossible. No species has technology this advanced." Admiral Jiang smiled sadly. "Your Majesty, the Vorthak Empire has been conquering primitive worlds for so long that you've forgotten what a real military looks like. You've been fighting farmers, traders, and peaceful civilizations for centuries. You've never fought a species that was actually prepared for war." "We are prepared for war," General Mordek shouted. "We have the largest fleet in the galaxy." "You have the largest collection of outdated warships in the galaxy," Admiral Jiang corrected. "Your technology hasn't really improved in thousands of years. You just build bigger versions of the same old designs. But humans have spent centuries fighting each other with every weapon we could imagine." She gestured, and the hologram changed to show images of Earth's history. Battles from humanity's past appeared in the air between them. Ancient warriors with swords, soldiers with guns, tanks rolling across battlefields, fighter jets screaming through the sky, nuclear explosions, lighting up the darkness. "We have been at war with ourselves for most of our history," Admiral Jiang continued. "We learned to fight on land, in the sea, in the air, and in space. We developed weapons to kill, weapons to defend, weapons to spy, and weapons to disable. We created strategies, tactics, and technologies that you've never seen because you've never needed them." "What do you want?" Empress Vexithera asked quietly. "What we've always wanted. Our people back, our colonies returned, and a guarantee that the Vorthak Empire will never attack human territory again. And if we refuse, Admiral Zhang's expression became serious. Your Majesty, look around you. Your entire fleet is helpless. We could destroy every one of your ships right now if we wanted to, but we don't want to. We're not conquerors like you. We don't enjoy killing. She paused and looked directly at the Empress. But make no mistake, if you force us to fight, we will win, and it won't be close. To demonstrate her point, Admiral Zhang gave a signal. Suddenly, one of the smaller Vorthak ships began to dissolve. The aliens watched in horror as their vessel was taken apart piece by piece, down to the molecular level, by invisible human weapons. We can do this to any of your ships at any time, Admiral Zhang said calmly. But we'd rather not. Then, just as suddenly, the dissolved ship began to rebuild itself. Piece by piece, molecule by molecule, it reassembled into its original form, completely undamaged. We can also fix what we break, Admiral Zhang added. This is the difference between humans and Vorthak. You destroy things. We understand them. The Vorthak leaders stared in amazement. The technology they had just witnessed was beyond anything in their experience. To disassemble and reassemble a starship at the molecular level required precision and power that they couldn't even imagine. How long have you been able to do this? Admiral Kexmore asked. The molecular manipulation technology? About 6 months. We developed it after studying your ship construction methods. Your people were very helpful during their occupation of our colonies. They answered so many questions. General Mordex felt sick as he realized the full extent of how badly the Vorthak had been outmaneuvered. The human prisoners. They weren't just gathering intelligence, they were teaching you how to build better weapons. Every conversation your guards had with our people taught us something new about your technology, Admiral Zhang confirmed. Every weapon you showed them helped us understand your capabilities. Every question they asked was designed to reveal your weaknesses. But our interrogations, we questioned your leaders extensively, and they told you exactly what we wanted you to know. Nothing more, nothing less. Dr. Dong Hyun-oh appeared as another hologram beside Admiral Zhang. The Vorthak Empire's greatest weakness, he said, is that you've never faced an enemy that could learn faster than you could adapt. You expected humans to fight like every other species you've conquered. You expected us to use the same kinds of weapons and tactics you were used to. But humans don't fight fair. We fight to win. What happens now? Empress Vexthera asked. Admiral, Zhang considered the question carefully. That depends on you, Your Majesty. You have two choices. You can continue trying to rule the galaxy through fear and violence, in which case humanity will stop you. Or you can join us in building something better. What do you mean? We're proposing a new kind of galactic government, not an empire ruled by one species, but a confederation where every species has a voice. No more conquest, no more slavery, no more forcing weaker civilizations to submit to stronger ones. Impossible, High Counselor Zeftakhan said. The galaxy is too large, too diverse. Different species can never work together as equals. Why not? Admiral Zhang asked. Humans have dozens of different cultures, languages, and belief systems, but we learn to cooperate. If we can do it on one planet, other species can do it across many planets. Sergeant Jaemin Ko, a representative of Earth's ground forces, appeared as a third hologram. The choice is yours, he said to the Vorthak leaders. You can be our enemies or you can be our partners, but you cannot be our rulers. Empress Vexithara looked around at her defeated fleet, then back at the human representatives. For the first time in her long reign, she was facing a species that was clearly superior to the Vorthak in every way that mattered for war. But instead of destroying her empire, they were offering her a chance to transform it into something better. You would really share power with us? She asked. After everything we've done? Every species deserves a chance to change, Admiral Zhang said. The Vorthak Empire has done terrible things, but the Vorthak people don't have to keep doing terrible things. You can choose to be better. And if some of our people refuse, if some of our worlds want to keep the old ways, then they'll discover that the old ways don't work anymore, Sergeant Ko said simply. The galaxy has changed. Species that try to conquer their neighbors will find themselves facing humanity, and as you've seen, that's not a fight anyone can win. The Empress was quiet for a long time, thinking about everything she had learned. Finally, she spoke. What would this confederation look like? Every member species gets representation based on their population, Admiral Zhang explained. Decisions are made by consensus when possible, by majority vote when necessary. No species can be forced to do anything that violates their basic rights or cultural values. But no species can attack, enslave, or conquer others. And humanity would enforce these rules? Humanity and anyone else who wants to help. We're hoping that eventually we won't be needed as enforcers. We're hoping that civilized species will police themselves. Empress Vexithara made her decision. I surrender, she said formally. On behalf of the Vorthak Empire, I accept your terms. We will return your people, withdraw from your colonies, and join your confederation. Welcome to a new age, Admiral Zhang said with a smile. 3 months later, Daeho Kim stood on the observation deck of the orbital station above New Seoul. The colony was being rebuilt, but this time it would be different. Instead of just humans, the new colony would include Vorthak scientists who wanted to study human farming techniques, and researchers from a dozen other species who were interested in cross-cultural cooperation. General Mordex walked up beside him. The former Vorthak military leader now wore the uniform of the Confederation Peacekeeping Force. I still don't understand how you did it, he said to Daeho. Did what? Turned a defeat into a victory, turned enemies into allies, made the strongest empire in the galaxy surrender without firing a shot. Daeho smiled. That's the thing about humans, General. We don't just fight wars to win them, we fight wars to end them, and the best way to end a war is to make your enemies into your friends. And if that doesn't work, then we make sure they understand that being our enemies is much more dangerous than being our friends. General Mordex laughed. I think I'm starting to understand why the Vorthak Empire lasted 3,000 years, but the Terran Confederation is going to last much longer. Forever, if we do it right, Daeho agreed.